So, you know, I already said a lot about the biblical narrative, but I just want to get in a little bit deeper. And I don't want to lose too many people here, so I am going to start speaking a little bit statistically and mathematically for a bit. Excuse me, I already touched on it a little earlier that there are 300 prophecies in the Bible about Jesus Christ's first coming. The probability of one man fulfilling 300 prophecies, one man amongst billions who ever were and whoever will be, fulfilling 300 prophecies, it already comes to a mathematical probability of what mathematicians would call absurdity. In other words, 0% chance that it is false, 100% chance that it is true. But here's the interesting thing. There are 800 prophecies about him coming back the second time. There's more in the biblical narrative about his return than his first coming. His first coming is powerful, amazing. We all need to hear that story and believe it. And the moment we believe it, gosh, wow, your life will change. But the reality is, how much, it's not how much more, it's the whole Bible is worth believing. But there are more prophecies about his second coming. And he is going to fulfill every single one of them. Okay, and many of them have already come into power, come into being. Just so, by the way, he's not here yet, but those prophecies have, in our lifetime, in this last generation, from sort of 1940 through to now, 2022, a lot of things have come into place that were not in place. And these things line up with the biblical story. They don't line up with any other religious text. It lines up with the biblical text, But, here's some mind-blowing probabilities or statistics for you to consider. So what if we look deeper at the biblical text? It's amazing to see some things that come out of the biblical text. If you could just write your own imaginary genealogy, 14 generations, 21 generations, and just go back and write a list of generations. What are the chances that you could write out all those names where all the words would be multiples of 7? So 21 divided by 3 is 7. You have 3 groups of 7. That's not difficult. Any one of us can do it. Okay. But in those exact same names, even the letters are divisible by 7. Okay, so maybe if we take a bit of time, we apply our minds, we could probably count out multiples of 7 in terms of letters and make them work into names that are factors of 7 as well. But then, what are the chances that you alone could then make all the vowels in those names and letters, all the vowels must be multiples of 7 as well. But then not only the vowels, even the consonants must be factors of 7. Are you still playing? Could you do that on your own? Maybe we'd start teaming up with other people. I don't know. What about all the numbers of words that occur more than once are divisible by 7? And all the numbers of words that occur in more than one form become divisible by 7. What about the quantity of nouns being divisible by 7? And only 7 words should not have any nouns. Are you still playing? Now we're on rule number 10. What's the probability that you could write a genealogy like that? We're just talking about 14 names. What's the probability you could meet all these different rules? The quantity of names shall also be divisible by 7. The number of male names to be divisible by 7. and obviously number of generations to be divisible by 7. But this is exactly what the Gospel of Matthew does. A single human could not have contrived that. This is just an external input outside of our time space again. If you look at the last 12 verses, and I mean, I'm not even giving you the probabilities here, but the probabilities already goes into mathematical absurdity. It's not probable that anyone could contrive that on their own. Okay, but here's another one. The last 12 verses of the book of Mark contains 175 words, which is a multiple of 7. Here we go again, more multiples of 7. Vocabulary, 98, and multiples of 7. 98 is a multiple of 7. The quantity of letters, 553, a multiple of 7. Number of vowels, 294. Number of consonants, 259. Also, all divisible by 7. If you look at the vocabulary specifically, 98 unique words, which we've already said. 84 of those words can be located before the Gospel of Mark. In other words, the other Gospels. Okay? All multiples of 7, 84 words. 14 words can only be located in the book of Mark. Multiple of 7. 42 words are Jesus statements. Multiples of 7. 56 words are not part of Mark's typical vocabulary. Also divisible by 7. If we consider these rules and calculate the probability of these existing by accident, it would equate to a 1 chance in 40 million. If you had to attempt to create this type of writing structure on your own, it would probably take you 3,000 years of time to go through all the various iterations to try and find one that fit all these rules that I just listed out to you. However, there's even more. That's just an initial 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. An initial 9 rules. It would take you 1 in 40 million chances to get it right. But there are more rules. At least 75 more patterns in those 12 verses of Mark. That means it would be something like a supercomputer making 400 million attempts per second, which would require 4.3 million years just to get that 1 chance. Which means the author Mark could not have contrived this on his own. While he was authoring, there was sort of an unseen hand, an unseen author. The Bible is full of these, for the lack of a better word, proofs. I know proofs is going to be a bit of a controversial word, but you can mathematically prove, you can prove the Bible in so many sciences. I've just opted for a mathematical one right now. The Bible story is true. The Bible narrative, the Bible text. I had to refer to my notes here. This is not my field, but I just thought it was important to emphasize the Bible narrative. So now we spoke about the book of Mark, which is the second gospel in the Bible. What about the book of Matthew, which is the first gospel? He also has unique vocabulary in multiples of 7. What is the chance that Matthew could have contrived to write his text with these multiples and factors of 7? Well, maybe if Mark, Luke, and John wrote first, and then he had a chance to read their texts, maybe he could have done it. But we've already gone through Mark. So, and we know that Mark has done this with using multiples of 7 in his text. So who was first, Matthew or Mark? Who contrived it first? I don't know. But then if you look at Luke, he's also got multiples of 7 in his text. You look at John, also got multiples of 7 in his text. So they could not have contrived it by reading the other Gospels first. There is an unseen hand that has written these texts. obviously by human scribes, so to speak. And there are so many more. There is so much depth in the Bible. So much depth. You might not believe the Bible text, yet I would encourage you to at least read it once. If you want to debate the opposing view from your position, there is logic and there's rationale in going to at least read the opposing view. Go and get the text. Go and put yourself in their shoes for a second and go and read what their position is. Go and understand their position. That's a logical way of debating the point. But to stand on the outside and just sort of throw mud at the opposing view just because you don't want to believe it, that already shows, what your position is. But if you're going to be a reasonable debater, if you're going to be a logical debater, you want to understand the other person's perspective. And so if that's you don't believe the Bible narrative yet, but you have an argument, you have a debate, you have a position, I would encourage you, just go get a Bible. Go read it cover to cover. Read the whole thing, beginning to end. Maybe write down your questions, because questions will distract us, initially. But I would encourage you, just read it, beginning to end. And then rerun your questions through your debate, through your position, through your lens, So, gosh, in wrapping up this episode, I've actually done, I think, 3 in 1 this morning. Might just edit them all separately or edit them together into one. These are just a few reasons why I'm going to take a biblical narrative going forward. And I really would encourage you to come for the journey, come for the ride. If you are someone who does not believe the biblical narrative, you may not agree with everything I'm saying. I get it. I understand. There's disagreement all over the place. I don't mind if you disagree. Really, if you've got questions, put them in the chat. Let's talk about it. It's not a problem. But I would encourage you to at least come along for the ride. Just watch future episodes. Because, like I say, it's going to be a purely biblical narrative. I don't want to get distracted by then historical events trying to prove the biblical case. I am going to take a purely biblical narrative on the basis that the Bible is true, it is God-breathed, and He can speak for Himself by Himself. He doesn't require history or science, any of the sciences, to prove His story or agree with the story. The Bible speaks to itself and proves itself, and that is why I'm going to sort of really discipline myself to only have a biblical narrative. So thanks for joining us. Please tune in next time, and obviously feel free to send me comments, and let's start a conversation. Cheers for now.